It did nothing, it was for nothing, and it cost $189 million. That's what people seem to think about the election that just happened here with Ontario and the re-election of Doug Ford. However, I do disagree for many reasons. First, that first reason being the Ontario Liberal Party, 14 seats compared to their previous 9 at the time of dissolution. This is pretty big, as it shows they are now a major status party, which means they are kind of given that voice that they've wanted, that they didn't really have previously in Parliament. They're forced by the other parties now to be given that right to speak at Ontario Legislative, and it helps them attack Doug Ford that much more. So overall, net positive for the Liberals. NDP declined hugely, 33% popular vote to 18. It further proves the point that they're just getting more condensed. They're condensed to these areas, these urban areas, and they did win the northern seats, but it was so close. Like, I think one district, I'll go into that a little later in the video, was like 4 votes off, which shows that they're hugely declining. They did lose a lot of the northern support, but they were just short, the Conservatives, from captivating on that. It's also potential blood in the water for Doug Ford's leadership as a whole. With only one seat change, they lost. They actually won more than this in the previous election. However, these are the previous seats at the time of dissolution. The up one, down one, up five. That's showing at dissolution time. But when actually elected, I believe Doug Ford won more. I believe he won around 83, 84, which means lower than last time, which means his leadership is actually in jeopardy. And I feel like there could be that chance that if a fourth term for Doug Ford may not happen, whether it be a conservative government or not, there is a chance that Doug Ford's leadership is definitely brought into question. Bonnie Crombie said that she will not uh, forfeit ownership of the Ontario Liberal Party. This somehow the election change. Um, that could happen. That could not happen. It depends really on if anyone gives her a seat. It would be somebody who, in a district was really close. Robert Kajak could give her the seat. That was like one of the closest Liberal wins. But I don't feel like a lot of people would be so willing to give up the seat. And if she doesn't, the next leader, who will that be? Who will lead the Liberal Party in the legislative? There's a definite good chance it's Tetsu of Kingston and the Islands. I actually got to meet Tetsu at the last MPP debate. A really nice guy. It could be him. Not sure. But that's just an overall why I think it wasn't for nothing. And let's move on to the next part. I now want to go over the winners and losers of this election, starting with the party that did the best, followed by the party that did the worst, with seats. For starters, though, that means we're starting with the Progressive Conservative Party under Doug Ford, and I think that's a win for the party. I don't necessarily think it's a win for Doug Ford. First, I'm going to talk about why it was a win for the party. They did definitely weaken the opposition a lot, most notably the NDP. They hugely affected their popular vote. They went from, as you can see, 33% to 18% the popular vote. I didn't have the actual numbers here for last election, but 33% to 18%. Less than a million votes. The the Conservative Party is focused on economic growth and like job creation and building more houses and stuff like that. Definitely sat with the voters, and it helped them get a lot of votes, the same votes that they already had, and it also helped them gain a lot of ground. As you can see, they did increase in popular vote. A lot of the races in the north, most notably, and a couple in the GTA were really close, like hundreds of votes off from them winning, which means there will be a recount. But overall, I don't think this will change much. Potentially another seat, potentially another lost seat. Another reason this went for the party is the Trump tariff position. It really helped them get a lot of votes here, and they're overall up. They're up from last time, except for the fact that they lost one seat that they could gain back with the recount, but I honestly doubt it. They're up though. They're up. They still got that big majority government that they wanted. They have it for another 4 years, and it's going to be good. But it is a loss for Doug Ford in the sense that his leadership is now definitely going to be in question. With a decreased seat count, the Progressive Conservative Party did win, but they lost. They didn't gain as much seats last time. I believe they won 83, but at the time of dissolution they had 79. So they went up from comparison to the time of dissolution. So they definitely did win. They won the election, but the seat count decreased due to previous election. That could mean somebody else in the party could secure power over Doug Ford. he could lose the leadership that he had, and there's not blood in the water for Doug Ford. Another reason it's a win for the party, though, is it definitely split the vote between the Liberals and the NDPs, preventing the ground from changing too much. They didn't get more votes than they could have, the Liberal Party, due to that split. If you look at a lot of grounds the Liberal lost, the NDP got like 15 to 10% of the vote. And had the NDP not ran like they did in a couple of regions, it would have led to less split. And the Conservatives wouldn't have had as many seats. So yeah, that's why I think it was an overall win for the party, but it was an overall loss for Doug Ford. Moving on to the NDP, I'm gonna talk about why I think this election was an overall loss, pretty big one. The NDP did perform well in the urban areas. I'll give them that, like Toronto, GTA area, and this could be for many reasons, but I think most notably due to their stance on healthcare, building more houses, and job creation and all that, the stuff they just said they were gonna do. But they did have a very big lack of breakthrough. One, they did get more seats than they were supposed to in the polls, but they just didn't have anything breakthrough. Their support is 18.55% compared to 33.59%. It shows that they are getting more condensed, way more condensed, and in these strong areas. They're in the GTA, they're in Ottawa a little bit, they're in Kitchener a little bit, big urban areas. But the North, they're starting to lose that grip. They barely held onto it this time, with the Conservatives slightly gaining some ground. And I think next election, this could be the fall of the NDP as the official opposition party. I thought it'd be this election personally going into it. I thought they'd get a lot less seats, but they narrowly held on to a lot of seats, and it overall helped them stay out there on that 27. But I thought this election would be the fall, with last year being the start of the fall. But I think this year is the start of the fall, and next year we'll see the huge low. Another thing is there is a huge fragmented left wing with the Liberals and the NDP. The Liberals definitely gained the most, though, from this fragmentation, with the NDP losing some votes to the Liberals, losing a couple seats to the Liberals, but it also hurt the Liberals, and I think it hurt the Liberals a lot more, with them losing some districts to the Conservatives by less than a percent, 2%, with NDP candidates running in those districts. And overall, I think that's mainly the reasons why the NDP lost, is just they're not appealing. Merit Skiles, people are saying this proves she's a credible leader and a very strong leader, but I disagree. I think this proves that she isn't the best leader for the party, and I think it proves that the NDP are going to hit a rock and just start going down. I think this is proof that they're going down, with their popular vote hugely decreasing. They're going to become more centralized in the urban areas and just start fighting the Liberals. Well, the Conservatives will probably gain control of the North, with a lot of the labor unions that previously supported the NDP moving to the Conservatives. The Conservatives got the fire, the paramedics, the police unions that previously didn't support him, supporting him now. So overall, I think this will show that the NDP is on their last run as the official opposition. Moving on to the Liberal Party, I think this shows in this election itself, the Liberal Party is the only reason this election wasn't wasteful, as this is the one official reason the Liberal Party is why the major loss for the party is the Liberals are above 10 now, which shows that they are going to be able to fight the Conservatives a lot more than they could have in the last 3 years before the election was called. I think the reason this is Carney had a strong campaign to start with. She had a really good campaign with attacking the NDP in the right places and attacking Doug Ford in the right places. And she overall probably had the best debate performance between the four, the Greens, Liberals, NDP, and Conservatives. I think she overall had the best performance in those debates, and I think we're starting to see the Liberals come back a little bit from Kathleen Wynne, who was really not liked in her last election that she ran. She was really hated, and that's the reason the Liberals are even got below 10 in the first place. But I think the Liberals are starting to come back from their loss of her. Like, she's the reason they lost a lot, so now they're starting to come back from that. They were appealing to the suburban voters a lot more than the NDP were, particularly in areas like the GTA. The Liberals were pretty strong there, but they had recently lost it with Kathleen Wynne. But they're starting to gain back a lot of those key seats. They also had a huge increase in popular vote, with previously getting 19, now getting 29, more than 10% increase. So overall, I think this will really help her. However, there are some shortcomings, most notably that she didn't win her own riding, and this puts in Bonnie Crombie's question as leadership. As a potential new leader could be determined, she did commit when she won last yesterday, I believe it was. She did say that she was going to stay as leader, but that's if somebody chooses to give up their seat for her, because the Liberals, no way the Liberals want a leader that doesn't have a seat as their leader and to represent them at legislative. And if nobody chooses to give up their seat, she is forced to, pretty much. Who could that be? The next leader if no one gives her a seat. I think there's a strong chance it's Ted Sue of Kingston and the Islands. Reason being, he was one of the people who won his seat by the biggest majority, and one of the people who ran against Crombie in her leadership race. And he overall did really well in his riding. I believe he won his riding by like 65% or something like that, Kingston and the Islands. So I think overall that was one of the main losses for them. But overall, this election was a huge win for the Liberals. One of the reasons it wasn't a waste. There's now another challenge for Doug Ford and the Conservatives in Parliament, with them being official status, with them over 10 seats. Moving on to the Green Party, this election was I guess it's probably good to consider this a win for them, but barely a win, as they got the two seats, the one that they got before like at dissolution, and the one they got to start, Mike Schneer's seat. Three was the ideal goal for them. Three seats. I forget the guy's name who was running that barely lost. I believe it was by 10% that he lost, but they did have an increase in popular vote by 0.20, like around 0.20. Over, so it was an overall win. Why it was an overall win? Like I said, they're up a seat. They kept their dissolution seat, so they're up a seat when compared to election time, the people they elected last time at the election. Why they're up? I think that's due to just people losing, like just another fragmentation on the left, really. The Greens are a left wing party, the NDP are left wing, OLP are left wing. So I think this is just an overall another fragmentation of the left wing, and people who don't like the NDP and people who don't like the Liberals just gravitate towards the Greens. People who are like a lot of middle class people also tend to vote towards the Greens. People who really care about climate change too. They're attracting a lot of young people now as well. The NDP and the Greens, but the NDP didn't really capitalize on this time around. The Greens did, I think, a little bit, getting a lot of support. And I think this is just an overall win. They have two seats. They're still going to be around the same as they were. Nothing really changed too much for them, but it was a slight win. Slight win, I'll say. I really like to use this map to previously explain and kind of show what I mean with what I previously said. Starting with why the NDP is losing the North and how they're losing the North. As you can see here, talking about the James Bay district first, this is a really good example. 45 to 45. They lost this district by 4 votes. Crazy. They won it last time by, I believe, 1,000. Now they're winning it by 4. Yeah, they're starting to lose this northern support that they had. Uh, I cannot say that name, so I'm not even going to try. I believe it's Kinectawaganu. They lost the Kinectawaganu district by less than last time. Sorry, they lost it by more than last time, but still a pretty good win for them. Thunder Bay, though, this election was pretty close. The Conservatives were set to win it in the polls, but they didn't. But they did gain closer to winning it than last time. And you can even talk about Cochrane here, another really close one that they won last previously, but they won it by a bigger margin, that they're really close to winning it now. Sudbury, or no, sorry, not Sudbury, Nickelbelt, you could say the same thing. Conservatives gained a lot of ground, and even Sudbury, you could say the same thing. They gained a lot of ground when compared to last time. So overall, the North, as you can see, the Conservatives are gaining a lot of ground, most notably in the James Bay district here, but they're overall just gaining a lot of ground in these seats here, these main 5 ones. I know it's not a lot of seats, but it proves the NDP are losing the North and are just going to be forced to stride against the Liberals in these urban sectors, which will hurt both the Liberals and the NDP at the same time, and even the Greens a little bit. So overall, this area I would consider a loss for the NDP, despite the fact that they won all the seats that they previously had. It was by slimmer margins than previous election, and the Conservatives an overall win as they're challenging the NDP a lot more here, mainly due to the worker unions here drifting away from the NDP, mainly due to the fact that the NDP are drifting away from helping them specifically and focusing more on social issues. I want to talk about the GTA briefly here. You got a couple areas here. As you can see, Oakville, Mississauga, Mississauga East, Mississauga Erin Mills, Mississauga Streetville. These are very close elections. In the NDP, 4%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 5%. These aren't huge, but it did cost the Liberals, I think. That's assuming all four would vote in Oakville. Let's say it assumes all four would vote for the Liberals. Probably not, but it would have been even closer. Same thing could be said for Mississauga Lakeshore. Mississauga Cooksville, though, I believe that enough would have went towards the Liberals and to the Greens that the Liberals win this seat if the NDP don't run. Especially in Erinville's too, 6%. Definitely more would have went to the Liberals than the Conservatives, and they probably would have won the seat. You could say the same thing about Weston. You could say the same thing about Ellington with the Greens. You can say the same thing about Scarborough Centre, and you can even almost say the same thing about Ajax, but the Liberals still barely came through. And same thing with Humber River for the NDP. Liberals don't run. NDP get a bigger margin here, and it looks overall worse for the Conservatives. They get probably less votes overall. But so overall, you can see here the GTA especially shows the Liberal divide with true effect as it cost the Liberals a lot of seats and gained the Conservatives more. If the NDP don't run in some of these pointless districts, so they only got like 6 to 5% of the popular vote, the Liberal seat count probably goes up a little bit, and uh, uh, the Conservative Party seats go down a little bit. So overall, this shows the left divide here, and it overall shows the left split in the vote, benefiting the Conservatives for the better. And if they hadn't ran some candidates, NDP or the Liberals, they probably would have got more seats each. One district I quickly want to talk about is Kingston and the Islands because I was invited to the last MPP debate between the Kingston and the Islands candidates. And although it's just one district, I believe it reflects a lot, the debate performance wise, a lot of things that played out true in the election. To start with, I want to talk about the NDP's strategy for this debate. The NDP's strategy was definitely to attack, attack, attack. All they did was attack. They slandered the Liberals. They slandered the the Conservative guy who wasn't even there. They slandered the Green Party, calling them irrelevant. And they even slandered James McNair, the none of the above party guy. Ian Chappelle didn't show up, who was the on Progressive Conservative Party leader, and Alan Wilson, the leader of the Ontario Party, didn't show up. Although Alan Wilson's appearance was irrelevant. Same thing, honestly, with Ian Chappelle's. However, the NDP's overall guns blazing strategy was definitely what they tried to play out this time around, although to less effect because it led to them getting they got a lot less time to show their networking and show their campaigning. In a lot of cases, the marketing strategy for the NDP was very poor, and they didn't get to really express that guns blazing approach that they wanted. So overall, you just didn't hear a lot about from them. The Liberals won the district. Tetsu, he was overall just attacking the NDP, with throwing some jabs at the Conservatives here and there, which is overall again what they try to do overall around, and it mostly worked to their benefit as some NDP supporters did join the Liberals and it helped them get over the 10%, the 10 vote threshold. Uh, the Conservatives, I think, played out the same here with Ian Chappelle not showing up. It overall reflects to me on the Conservatives' hold that they just tried to, they didn't really do a whole lot around. They mostly slandered the Liberals, which is what they do most of the time. They attack the Liberals a little bit, and they kind of ignore the NDP. And that's kind of what happened here with him not showing up. They just kind of expected the same thing to happen. And overall, I think that's what they wanted for this election. I don't think they cared if they want a bigger majority. I just think they wanted that majority. That's what. Well, I guess mostly Doug Ford wanted. He just wanted that majority for the 4 more years. And overall played his benefit. And the two minor parties, Alan Wilson and James McNair, the none of the above party. The none of the above party, in my opinion, is a fucking crazy party. I spoke to the leader of the none of the above party, and he was just talking about how he knew how to make cars run on water through ammonia, and he knew how to stop climate change, but he wasn't going to tell me or anyone else because if he did, the other parties would steal it. So overall, none of the above party just kind of a nut job. So overall, that's why I think Kingston Islands is a good district to look at for how it showed the rest of the election. I know it's a liberal victory, and this looks incredibly liberal bias. No. That's not what I'm trying to do here. The Progressive Conservative Party was definitely the better party. They definitely won this election, and overall, were probably the best choice to vote for in this election, in my opinion. But I think Kingston the Islands, despite the Liberal win, is a good idea to show how the election went for other parties. With the NDP declining in Kingston a huge amount from last time, The Conservatives staying around the same that they were in Kingston, the Liberals gaining a huge, and the Greens again staying relatively the same compared to last year and this year's performance. One last district I want to talk about is Norfolk, and the Independent one-seat win. If you look back at my video I made about the election and the results I predicted, I predicted her to win. I know, and I went against every poll because I wanted the independent to win. I thought that'd be kind of funny, but every poll was saying she wasn't going to do it. She wasn't going to do it. There's no way she does it. The news polls, the like abacus polls, everyone, she ain't going to win this seat. I thought she was gonna, and she did. So overall, I just kind of want to say I got this prediction right. She won though, I think, because she was the previous district runner and people liked her. I checked her approval. She had pretty high approval, so I figured she'd win it again. So overall, yeah, that's all the districts I wanted to talk about. Back to the chart. To conclude, the Progressive Conservatives definitely are the biggest, probably the biggest, not the biggest winners, but I'd say they're one of the top two winners, the second place winner for this election. Liberals are definitely number one, but the reason the Conservatives are two is because they got what they wanted. I believe they got what they wanted with this just majority. They got their majority again for 4 more years. However, I think there is a blow with the fact that they didn't win more seats in the election than they did last time, like everyone thought they were gonna. Another thing I didn't bring up earlier though, and I'm gonna bring it now, is I think that another thing they could have done to get the seats is if they just opened early voting sooner. That typically helps the Tories, and I think it would have this time, but it didn't. And yeah, but they are definitely a winner still. They got that done. They got that huge ground. But again, Doug Ford, this brings into question his leadership and within the party itself, and this could come back to hurt him, and he could lose support. Liberals, number one winner, definitely. They are now official party status. They got way more votes than last time. They weren't even reaching a million last time. Now they're reaching a million. This is pretty good for them. NDPs, big losers. They held on to their opposition and they held on to their official opposition party status, lost one seat, and they lost a huge amount of the popular vote, showing that they're just getting more condensed. And with the Liberals getting some ground back, and they'll probably continue to gain ground into the next election, NDP could lose official party status next election. I'm almost positive they will. NDP, huge falling off. Greens stayed about the same, had the two seats at a dissolution, gained a tiny bit of the popular vote, like 0.20, gained some votes. Overall, small win for them. Next election, I think they'll probably do around the same, if not a little bit worse. I don't think they'll ever get the 3, 4, 5 seat threshold unless young voters keep choosing to vote for them instead of the NDP. So yeah, overall, that's why I overall think this election was not a waste either. Gave the Liberals official party status, and yeah, so that's gonna be all for this video. If you guys enjoyed, please sure to smack that like button. And that's the Canadian Raven. Peace out. One thing I wanted to bring up that I noticed in editing that I totally didn't bring up that I feel like I definitely should have is one reason you can say this is a victory for Doug Ford and the Conservatives is this is the first time since 1959 in Ontario that a party leader has won 3 consecutive majorities. So overall, this is a very historic election, and if you voted first time voter or just were watching this election unfold, this is like a very historic election you got to witness. But I overall thought I should definitely include this. I didn't think about it until I was editing the video, so I thought I'd put it here at the end. And yeah, see y'all later.